have it ready on top of your head, the 6 task management and the 6 self management. I hope you also have taken the self assessment so you know more or less which ones are more active in your life and which are less active. And by the way, I know that at the beginning of the video I used strengths and weaknesses, but I do believe that executive functions, to be more accurate and realistic, I try to refer to it as more active and less active executive functions. And then I ask myself, as a teacher, what are my goals? And then what type of which executive functions are needed to be active? And then I look at my self-assessment or what I know about myself. Are there any match are they match they're matching, sorry, um, my blueprint, the goals, right, with the blueprint. And if not, how can I make those who are less active more active? So we're going to talk about this. Okay. Again, before we delve in, I just want to mention that most of our struggle in the classroom and throughout the lesson is when there is a mismatch between what our class requires of students or the expectations from students and their current abilities. This is extremely important to remember. Now, we do wish that all of our students would adapt to our learning style, our teaching style, and routines. But in reality, this is something that is too arduous, too difficult, and unattainable, especially with today's lifestyle and how students are habituated to manage themselves. I want also to take a minute or two to reflect on the strategic planning. Okay, again, which domain is your strongest or more active, right? More successful? Which one are you more comfortable with, and does it, seamlessly or effortlessly? Now, uh, the top one, the preparation and arrival, is where you really start your lesson. But the start of the lesson is not when the bell rings, obviously. The start of the lesson is when you start thinking about the lesson, okay? And so it's way before when the bell rings. It's well before that 9 a.m. when students start rushing in the classroom. We want to think about preparation and arrival in terms of what needs to be done before lesson starts. So, and how I can help my students who are who don't have those executive functions as active as necessary for my lesson, for my type of teaching or my teaching style. It's very important that you take a moment with yourself and write down, okay, I am a teacher. If I had to ask 5 of my students, okay, what kind of a teacher Mr. Mizrahi is or Mrs. Cohen is, and try to see what's the pattern, what are the commonalities between those testimonials or just like feedbacks. It's very important that we understand what kind of teachers we are, each one of us, and what do we usually require of students or expect, what kind of what set of expectations do we enter the classroom with. The more we are aware of ourselves, the more comfortable we'll be with who we are, obviously. In this self-reflection process, you will notice that there are things that could be, put aside or even eliminated altogether. But it's extremely important, please, to take the time and think about you as the teacher and what kind of a teacher are you? What kind of expectations do you have? What are your standards? What are your other things that even in these 4 performance domains, which are that you're going to put which domain you're going to put more emphasis on? The way they enter the classroom, the way they participate. I know a lot of teachers who are very flexible about assignments. If the students don't complete the assignments, that's okay as long as they participate very well. As long as they try and come with the necessary material, that's okay. There's no like one recipe. There's no one way. You just need to be aware of it and ask yourself, am I good with this? And that's it. The more you will feel complete, the more you feel comfortable with who you are, that's the energy your students and their parents will get from you. While teachers have always struggled with misbehavior and disruptions in the classroom, the modern era and modern lifestyle has introduced us to significant changes in how our kids develop. Unfortunately, these changes really deprive our children from the opportunity to develop their essential skills of executive functions. These skills manifest themselves, or underperformance of those skills manifest themselves particularly when it comes to being in a group or engaging with academic tasks. Now we must acknowledge that um, modern parenting as well lacks structure and consistency, but so do many classrooms. There are different reasons why our students' learning environments, both at home and school, are less conducive to developing their executive functions. And when I ask teachers, uh, when I give these presentations to in person and to teachers, and I ask, what do you think? Why do you think students are underperforming? I get a lot of comments, but we have to remember a couple of things. Number one, structure is associated with limiting the child and less with allowing growth. That's why a lot of teachers shy away from structure because they look at it from a punitive point of view, which is a mistake, as as well as discipline. Discipline is perceived as punishment, punishing the kid, rather than what derives the real meaning of the word discipline is to teach. Disciple is a student, right? Someone who learns. So structure and discipline, these are two words, two terms that we kind of like stay away from, and we see it not only in modern parenting but also in modern teaching. And in our fast-paced lives, we often don't have enough time, or we think that we don't have enough time to cherish those small moments, the moments that where we do see growth, the moments where we appreciate the progress that our students may make in the classroom and outside. And it does apply to their how they see themselves, how they value their growth as students, as independent learners who own their executive functions. All right, so let's delve in four domains. Domain number one, preparation and arrival. Executive functions needed for preparation and arrival is usually task initiation and planning and organization, as well as prioritizing. You can add there. All right, teachers who are strong in preparation and arrival um, would start lessons smoothly, have materials ready and transition planned, and they feel calm and composed when the day begins. They're not stressed at the beginning of the day. Teachers who struggle, on the other hand, may experience rushed starts, they forget materials, and they have disorganized transitions. It is, again, it's not to point out at a weakness, but rather to raise awareness. All right, here's the coaching move for us as teachers in terms of preparation and arrival. Presence, proxies, pre-arrival, post and point, and practice. Yeah, the 5 Ps. Let's start with the first one. All right. So for teachers, different classes, right? If you teach math, if you teach science in different grades, it means that you move, especially in middle school, it means that you move from one classroom to another. That's very hard. But at the same time, you must be a teacher who owns the place. And it's part of the presence you need to instill in your students. They need you to be the leader of the room. Presence. And how do you do it? You can do it by greeting the students at the door, as a cue and support to transition into a learning mode. Avoid accepting them from your desk, right? A lot of teachers tend to do it. They sit on their desk, or they rush in, right? Those who are not so good in time management, and they rush in and they start organizing their own material while students come in the classroom, or they really don't have time between classes, and they have to rush. I remember for a few consecutive years where I needed to switch from one classroom to another, even grades both in middle school and high school. It was pretty hard. I bought uh, I bought this one. It's a backpack with wheels and everything I needed. I thought about my classes in terms of a bulk of classes. So chunks of classes. So period 3, 4, 5. I'm going to be in these two rooms, etc. What I'm going to do, I'm going to just equip my backpack, put inside everything I need for these classes, and then come back to my room or the faculty room, then reorganize. I know it's a lot of organization and preparation, but at the same time, again, it allows me to greet students at the door, show presence, and help them transition into learning mode. Proxies. Proxies are things that can help us and that we don't do it directly. So we can use visuals and we can use routines. So to build routine, then in Mr. Mizrahi, let's say it's not your class, but you're known to be their, you're their math teacher, you're their ELA teachers, and they need to know that in your class, this is how you run your lessons. This is how it is, and this is something that that routine or that way of organizing yourself or that way of starting the lesson. This is how I do it. I am consistent. So in order to build a routine, you have to have something, a practice that makes sense, that is logical, that are not too new, not too innovative, or not too unfamiliar, and that you do it consistently. Okay, as well as not too above their level. When I switched from middle school to high school, to a completely new state, I I applied a few of the routines, and I remember a particular group was a 10th grade math, and they had a really hard time adapting to my style, and I was like trying very with consistency, but it didn't work out until I realized it was quite. I think toward the end of the first semester, I realized that when I observed them in other classes, I realized that none of the other teachers are really putting emphasis on how on how I start the lesson. Like it was so far, they were far off of what I expect them. Then I said, no wonder why they're not even trying, or they give me this. I meet with this resistance because I did not make sure to meet them where they are or just a little bit more, but to keep it within the what we call the zone of proximal development. I was too far off of what they're used to, and being a 10th grader, resistance is something that you use quite often when you meet with unfamiliar practices, especially from teachers. So this is really a mistake that I made, and I want to share it with you, so you be cognizant of your own practice and expectations, but where the students are. Okay, so yeah, you will have to bend a little bit of your not your style, but your standards and expectations, just so that you can meet the students closer and close the gap, and that because we want to build a routine. Okay, it's not necessarily that I want them to do exactly what I want, but it's that I want them to build a routine that makes sense, that helps the lesson start without me directing them every day. Okay, that's the idea of a proxy. That I don't have to do it directly every day. That's how I keep my energy. Pre-arrival checklist for yourself. Again, that is something that I can prepare for each of my classes. If you teach different grades, this is very, very important to um, know what is more appropriate for, let's say, 6th grade than 8th grade. These are completely different age groups, and that students are at different places in their development, and our checklist may look different in terms of not only material and supply, but also in the way we communicate, in the way we engage, and what we expect, and the kind of structure that we give them. So pre-arrival checklist, no more than 3 or 4 items on the checklist. Did I prepare do I have the folders that I need for them, all the handouts already? um, is the agenda on the screen, or they know the agenda, or they really need it on their on the packet itself. It really depends what they are. You have to ask yourself in terms of their, again, current practice. Post and point, again, you have some standards. Don't make it a long list. Usually 3 would do. Um, but every time there is some kind of some behavior or some question or comment that relates to those standards, you can just have those standards posted on the maybe on the screen or on the wall, and just point at it. Try to minimize the talking around routines and instructions and expectations. Keep the talking for instructions and asking questions of the students, in terms of the lesson. But all the classroom management, quote unquote, try to use the presence, the proxies, the pre-arrival, the post and point, and the practice. Practice, I mean that we want to start the lessons, especially if you're in the higher grades. You want to, in high school or 8th grade, you want to start the lesson with a low stake quiz or just an engaging review activity. If it's a middle school, graded. Very important to grade it. 1 or 2 points, no more than that. It is a bell ringer. I mean, you can call it a bell ringer. I try not to call it a bell ringer, but you, it's something that they're being graded up, okay? And it helps students switch right away. Again, not just your reminders. Your reminders should not be, okay, everyone, listen to me. Let's get stuff going. We want to start quickly. It shouldn't be that way. Okay. Again, think about your energy and patience. Yes, exactly. So you want to give them 2 minutes to complete it, 2-3 minutes. Make it short, make it graded, and make it attainable, to their level. All right. The second domain, understanding and following instructions. We all wish that our students would adapt to our teaching style, right? The routine, the style, but that's in reality, that's not happening. So what we want to do is we want to focus on these four performance domains. We want to increase self-awareness. What are we good at? What are our most active executive functions? And which of the 4 domains we're very good at. One for sure we master, and one for sure is a major struggle. And if we think about our difficulty as teachers, it usually falls on one of these 4 domains. And if not, please comment below on the comment field and let us know. Maybe we're wrong. All right. So understanding and following instructions. Let's delve in. Alrighty. Understanding and following instructions, okay? Usually the executive functions that are needed are working memory, sustained attention or focus, and flexibility. Could be other as well. But these are the 3 main that I'm thinking of. Now, teachers who are good at understanding and in helping students understand and follow instructions, they're very good at giving clear, consistent directions. They maintain student attention across the steps, and they adjust instructions when students need more support. I cannot tell you, as a student myself, as a doctoral student myself, from this past year, I remember that I once had a teacher, a professor, one of the instructors gave us a very difficult assignment, but she was so great. She prepared for us a complete assignment, right? A sample assignment that is not only that is a sample assignment of what she's expecting, but that assignment had parts that were highlighted and explained step by step why these parts were chosen and how they fit in the expectations, and that made that difficult and daunting assignment very doable, an assignment that I eventually got an A on. Now, not because of in spite I'm sorry, despite the difficulty, and with the help and because of the help of the sample, because of how the instructions were so clear. She also had a video explaining, recorded video, and then we had a live session going over it. So I think on her part, she did anything possible to help students understand how to complete the assignment. But teachers who struggle with helping students understand and follow instructions, they uh, they get a lot of questions from students. I, as a teacher, I knew that when I get a lot of questions from my students about an assignment, it means that I'm doing something wrong, that something is off in this assignment. Maybe it's too difficult, maybe it's too unfamiliar, maybe I presented it at the wrong time in the unit. Um, so there are questions that you want to ask. It doesn't mean that you have to doubt yourself every time a student asks questions, but just be aware of it. Also, students they start incorrectly or not studying at all, meaning that the way they do the assignment is not in the right way. So there is no, you know, I would say there is no reason to get frustrated, but oftentimes we do get frustrated, and we just want to remind ourselves that there is a difficulty here in the instruction or the nature of the assignment. And not only as a teacher, I'm talking now as a parent. I see so many times teachers are post assignments and the instructions are unclear. If I had, as an academic coach who works with students and also a father, if I had to take the time that my students and my children struggled with an assignment and ask myself, okay, why is it because of the instructions were not clear? I would say a good 40 to 50% of the times. Good 40, 50% of the times. All right. There is confusion, there is frustration also when we don't provide with clear, consistent instructions. It manifests itself in the lesson very, very clearly. All right, so what can we do to help ourselves, to help our students with following instructions? Okay, there is something I call my action move is same show, which means the to increase predictability and work and help with working memory. So same learning activities, different topics. We often forget that the same learning activities are not boring. If you have a set of 4 or 5 learning activities and you use them throughout the semester or throughout the year, that would be great. You change topics, and those topics you use the same learning activities. I see a lot of teachers who change topics and they also change learning activities. Make a list of 4 or 5 learning activities that are yours, that you're known for. It could be, I would say, movement activities that involve activities that involve movement. They can sit on the rug or on the floor. They move around because you post like sticky notes all around the room, posters and things like that, or a Kahoot, or um, or something that is more interactive, right? It could be peer learning. Whatever the learning activities that work for you, make it yours and make it nice, make it engaging, and stick to them. What will change are the topics. Again, teachers tend to change topics and learning activities. You don't have to do that. Same material, less handouts, more booklet. When we say less handouts, I mean the one loose paper. Try to avoid the one loose paper that we give in the classroom. And if you need to give papers, make them booklets into units, or have the the school buy for you big booklets, binding uh, um, you know, workbooks. Sorry, workbooks. Workbooks are very helpful. So, and make sure that the material is always the same. Again, you change topics, but you don't change the learning activities and you don't change the materials. If there is a new material, you bring it, not the students. And um, and when you are doing something with the learning activities and it's for the first time, or anything that you want to show them with the items that you brought, show, don't tell. Okay, instead of telling them, showing them. Again, thinking about the glass of patience and energy. The more you show and less tell, the more energy and patience you will have to handle yourself and handle different situations that inevitably occur in the classroom. All right.